You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr., welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for today, July the 1st, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this is usually time where I get into a long-winded speech about what we're going to talk about tonight, but we don't have time for that. We have a special guest, so I'm going to skip all that minutia. We'll talk about that when we come back on our break in the first 15 minutes. But first, I'm going to welcome in my co-host, Christopher Lehman, and tonight's special guest joining us to open up the show, American stock car driver Chris Hacker is here on the show. Christopher, welcome. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Most definitely, and I appreciate you guys having me out tonight.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it for sure. So we follow you on Twitter. We've been watching all the fun you're having, and we can't wait to have a little bit of fun here in the opening segment of our show.
Most definitely.
And I can already tell this is going to be fun because you guys obviously didn't hear our little pre-show conversation, and it was a riot for like the first 8 minutes before we got on here. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into the questions, I'm going to say, Chris, how has your week been, and what have you been up to lately?
It's been pretty smooth. I still work like normal 9-to-5 jobs, so I've been working here and there. And then just interacting with the fans on Twitter, and I've been doing some iRacing streams. And I don't know if you saw last night, but I ran into this dude. I think it was like, I want to say it was like Tuesday. I ran into him. He was just in my practice session, and he started like doing his announcing voice. And he's not an announcer or anything. He is for broadcasting, but not like in actual racetracks. And I was like, I found him on Twitter. I was like, bro, I have to get you in on my stream. And he was down. And so my first race of the night last night, he was just commentating it the whole time. And he was able to do impressions like Patrick Star from SpongeBob. And then he also sounded just like, bro, he sounded just like Larry Mack. Like, I'll send you guys the clip right after this. But
Please do.
It was amazing. And so, this week's definitely been a 10 out of 10 for sure.
That's awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. So we can get into the questions. I guess, Christopher, what we can do is we will alternate questions. I can go ahead and get us started. And we'll start with the basics here. Tell us a little bit about your racing career. What are some of the highlights, some of the lowlights? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so long story short, I started when I was 8 in quarter midgets, and I ran those for a year and moved up to the INX Bandolero series at 9. I ran that for 2 years and moved up to the U.S. Legend Cars at 12. And then at the age of 13, I moved up to late models. And I ran late models for about 3.5 years. And at that time, my parents were financially funding me, and it came to the point where they just couldn't do it anymore. So I actually got out of the seat at like 16, 17. And, I was still in high school at the time. So I was just working at the racetracks with some late model teams here and there at that time. And then I finally graduated, and I was like, I still want to do stuff with racing. So I went to University of Northwestern Ohio for my high performance engineering degree. And I don't know about you guys, but I was never really a school person, and high school proved that, and college even proved that more. So I ended up dropping out, actually, and I was like, I want to drive. And over those years of me being out of the seat, I worked a lot, would buy like a junker car and then, build it up a little bit and sell it for a little bit of profit. And I was able to get a lump sum of money to drive again. So what I did is I got 2 late model races in to kind of knock the cobwebs off of me before my ARCA debut. And then we did my ARCA debut at Phoenix in the fall of last year. And I was supposed to run Daytona in the spring of this year, but NASCAR has a mandatory test session for the super speedways, and I ended up coming down with COVID during that. So, that automatically opted me out of the Daytona race. So, we were trying to figure out a next race to do, and it ended up being Charlotte, where I was able to finish 10th at, which was pretty great for me. I enjoyed that a lot, and that kind of leaves us where we're at right now. We're talking to some teams, some truck teams right now, trying to get my truck debut in. We should have something set up by the mid or end of this month. I'm not exactly sure. We gotta figure out a good release date and stuff like that. But as far as highlight, I have to go with two of them. So my first one will be in the late model series. When I was 13, I got in a massive wreck, and long story short, a car ended up on top of me.
Oh, no.
And so that was a Saturday night. We took the car to the race shop Sunday, and we worked on it all week. We tore the body off, put the new motor in it. It ripped like the carburetor and the top end off the motor from his chassis, like sliding across it and stuff. And so we replaced everything, and then it came back to being Saturday the next weekend, and we were at the track putting the numbers on the car. It was so last minute, and I ended up going out there practicing pretty well, qualified pretty well, and it was like one of the biggest late model races that they had at that track at the time, in that series. Actually, not at the time. There's different late model series in Champion Racing Association. There's about 3, and so it was a 100 lapper. I went out there and I ended up winning it, and so that was probably one of the best highlights that I had, just to be able to come back from that massive wreck in such a short amount of time. But here lately, I gotta say that ARCA race, we were expecting like a top 15 finish for sure. If not, then it is what it is. As long as we came in with all 4 corners on the car, I definitely would have been happy. But I crossed the start and finish line at the end of the race, and I went over the radio and I was like, "Was that a P10?" And the spotter came back and he was like, "Yes, sir, a P10." And I can't lie, I got a little bit teary eyed. I was really proud of myself and really happy that we were able to do that, because it was something we weren't expecting at all. But I came off the track, started going through the pits. My brother was there, and my brother, he doesn't watch racing. He doesn't like racing at all, but he likes it when I do it. So I drove past him first, and he was like punching the air, like telling me good job and stuff. And then I finally get to the trailer, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like kind of like staring off into space, like collecting myself and just realizing like what happened. And my dad came up and gave me a fist bump, and he was smiling ear to ear. My mom was smiling ear to ear, and just everybody was smiling. It was a great day for everybody, and at the end of the day, that's what racing is all about. If you're not having fun, then there's no point in doing it. And so to be able to do that and still have a great night after that is definitely a blessing.
That's awesome to hear. And it's kind of going to tie into the next question I have, but something I'm going to back up a little bit, because something you had said kind of just sparked a secondary question for me. And you were saying how you're trying to, you're in talks with some teams for a truck ride next year. And specifically what I'm kind of curious about is we're seeing a lot of team shakeups. Teams are moving up to Cup Series, and teams are getting bought out. Is there a little bit of uncertainty with the Truck Series, with people maybe trying to jump up to Cup, or is what your experience is that a lot of the truck rides are safe? There are not many people jumping up to Cup.
So, if anything, if truck teams were jumping up, it would definitely be to the Xfinity Series. It's a big jump to go from trucks to Cup. As far as being uncertain about it, the team I've been talking to, they don't plan on jumping up until they have a full-time driver to jump up with. They're able to do it, but they don't want to do it and not have drivers. So, that's kind of something we talked about too, because I'm pretty sure you were talking about next year for my truck race, but we're actually trying to make my debut this year in the 2021 season. Hopefully get a couple more races in if we do get, come up with more partners for funding. But as of now, with my own funding, I'm only able to compete in one more race. So we're hitting the nail hard on the head with trying to come up with some partners. But as far as the uncertainty and stuff, there is a lot of like silly season stuff going on right now. But as far as the team that I've been talking to, I can almost be certain that they are not going to be jumping up into the Xfinity Series anytime soon.
That's I mean, that's nice to know that, if you do sign on there, that you'll have some stability for a while at least. And if they are going to jump up to Xfinity, fingers crossed that it's with you. That'd be awesome, especially
Most definitely.
With your career trajectory. But anyway, so the second question, and the one that we kind of had planned to ask, specifically, you were talking about that 100 lapper, and that's going to lead into the next question that, anybody that has, follows you on Twitter, has followed you at all, knows that you have brachial plexus. So for our listeners who don't know what that is, can you tell us, what that is, and then just how it's impacted your career?
Most definitely. So you're probably like the 100th person to do this, but it's actually pronounced brachial plexus.
I figured.
Yeah. Like you are like, I can't tell you how many people pronounce it that way, but anyway, so brachial plexus injury is a nerve damage injury, and what it does is it affects your range of movement and your feeling. And so it can happen in car wrecks or birth, anything that could majorly damage your nervous system. So mine happened to be from birth, and I won't get into too much details, but I was too big of a baby pretty much. I should have been a C-section, and so I ended up, there was complications, and they ended up having to like pull on me. And in that process, they ripped 3 of the nerves that connect my nervous system to my arm. And I believe there's 4. There might be 5. I'd have to go back and look. But so they tore there's C5, C6, C7, and C8. And that's the medical terms of the nerves that function your arm, or at least your left arm, because mine's in the left arm. And they tore C5 and C6, and then they had scar tissue on C7. And so at first, what that does is I can only move my fingertips. And so in between birth and the age of 7, I had 3 major surgeries. And what they did is they took nerves out of my calves and my ankles, and they transferred them to my neck and my shoulder. They kind of like Frankenstein me up real quick. And my last one, I remember, I was old enough to remember that one, and my wrist is kind of droopy, I guess you could say. It doesn't like sit straight. It like sits like drooped down. And a lot of that was because the nerve on the lower side of my wrist had a lot more function than the nerve on the top side of my wrist. So they took the bottom nerve and then they flipped it over to the top. So I mean, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 9 scars from all the surgeries that I've had. And some kids, they weren't able to have those surgeries done. When they were kind of figuring out the process of taking a nerve from somewhere else in the body and putting it somewhere else, when they were figuring all that out, that was kind of when I was born. And so it happened to me at a lucky time, and thankfully the doctor who performed on me was able to do it successfully. And so as of now, I have 50% range of movement. I can I can grab my wrist with my right arm and move my left arm wherever I want, but doing it by itself, I can only lift it up to probably about to my forehead. And then my wrist, I can't lift it straight up, but I can lift it about parallel with my forearm. And then as far as my elbow, there's like muscle contraction on the inside of my elbow. So my elbow physically, like no matter how hard I push, will not straighten 100%. So my arm sits like kind of bent a little bit 100% of the time. As far as its own range of movement in my elbow, I can I can move it to my chest and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, there's no 100% movement on it going out. And funny story with my surgeon, his name was Dr. Me, and he used to know Tony Stewart before he got into NASCAR. And he was telling me, because my last surgery was when I was 7, so right before I started racing, so I was kind of into NASCAR. And I would talk to him about it because we'd be doing checkups, and he'd be like, so what are you into nowadays, yada yada yada. And I told him I liked racing. He was telling me a story, and he used to work for Tony Stewart on his, like local track weekend pit crew type stuff. And finally, Tony got, accepted in NASCAR, and he was like, "Yo, I'm not sure what Dr. Me's name is, but he was like, yo, Dr. Me, like, we're going to NASCAR. Come on." And at that time, Dr. Me was getting his, doctorate degree, and he was like, "What?" He was like, "No, I'm trying to like be an adult. I'm trying to do something real with my life, and get my doctorate degree." And then, lo and behold, Tony Stewart became a famous NASCAR driver, and I'm sure Dr. Me looks back on that and is like, "Dang, maybe I should have gone with him." But yeah, it was like, that's pretty crazy on how tight of a scenario that is between me and him.
Yeah, it sounds like he should have taken Tony's opportunity there to go racing. But
yes,
it's funny we speak about Tony Stewart as he started out in open wheel. You actually had a chance to test an open wheel car at some point in your career. Talk a little bit about that, and what was more fun to drive, the stock car or the open wheel?
Yeah, so the only time I fully raced open wheel was quarter midgets. I don't know if you guys have seen a legend car at all, but they look like the old like 34 style Chevy and Fords, like the bubble back and everything. And, the wheels stick out probably about an inch on each side of the fenders, so I wouldn't really call that open wheel. But as far as the open wheel testing that I did, that was back in the fall when I was at my Phoenix race out in Arizona, and I tested a Formula 4 car, and it was a blast. I loved it. It's a complete different realm on how you drive. You can go through the corners a lot quicker just because there's more aerodynamic and they're just a lot more stable. The problem is if they do like break a little bit loose in a stock car, you kind of feather the wheel to chase it out and you can straighten it up. In an open wheel car, it's like a blink of an eye and you're already spun around backwards. They literally snaps like around. And I've seen videos growing up of like IndyCar drivers and Formula drivers saving their cars when they'd get loose, and I was like, oh, I can save a car, like that's nothing too crazy, like that's cool, but it's not too crazy. But then after I drove that Formula 4 and realized like how quick they turn around, I spun it probably about like 3 times because I was just really trying to like put some really quick lap times down, and I didn't save it any of the times. Like it's insane. So like I gotta give those guys props for sure for being able to save those cars. It takes a lot of quick reaction time to be able to save them, but yeah, like I said, it's a whole different realm. When I'd be going down the long stretch, I'd start picking up speed, and my helmet's like for stock car racing. I'm sure they have other helmets for formula racing and open wheel stuff, but like I don't know if you've ever been on a motorcycle with a helmet on, but like your head will like start to shake back and forth from the wind hitting it. And it's like I was having to deal with that a little bit here and there, but yeah, it was ultimately a great experience. I'm very blessed to have been able to do it, and we sat back about the beginning of this year, and we were like what do we need to do? Because like I was saying earlier, I'm on limited funding right now with just funding myself at the moment, and we're like, what do we need to do to make this a career and for you to be able to afford it? And we talked about open wheel racing a lot. We talked about getting into Formula 4 racing, and it sparked my interest, but my heart's always been in NASCAR. Being a NASCAR driver is always what I wanted to be growing up, and so I never really pulled the trigger on it. So we're continuing with NASCAR and everything like that, and I'm very blessed to be able to have the opportunity. But if there's no partners that come up, which I'm working with some people right now, I'm very faithful that they'll be able to get the job done on finding some partners. But just at the moment, with the limited funding, we kind of thought open wheel would be the move, but like I said, it's just it was hard for me to kind of focus on that when being in NASCAR is really all I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, it would be I actually have been trying to figure out how to get in an open wheel car. They just look like so much fun. And like you were saying, you think, you're a good driver. I can handle these cars, but like you were saying, you lose it for even a fraction of a second, and you're spun around. There's no saving them.
Most
And
definitely.
so, anyways, you were kind of talking about earlier. You were talking about how you grew up loving NASCAR. Your doctor worked for Tony Stewart. So what drivers did you idolize growing up, and why them specifically?
So, growing up, so my dad used to race like at the local tracks. I was kind of young when I got into watching NASCAR. I was probably about like 4 or 5, so I can't exactly remember what 100% got me into racing. I think like he would just watch the NASCAR races and I'd watch them with him. And then once I started racing, then I realized he used to race and stuff like that. As far as my idol, my dad loved Tony Stewart. He always like rooted for him and everything, but my idol was definitely Jeff Gordon. Um, and at the time, when I started racing, I didn't really know why I liked him. I didn't really have a real reason behind it. But when I was 13, I was actually able to meet him and talk to him. And growing up, I mean, especially now, I've talked to a lot of NASCAR drivers, but growing up, I was able to get, a handful of conversations with some, probably about like 10 to 15 here and there throughout my years. And, NASCAR drivers, they make sure that they conversate with you and stuff like that. But instead of it being like, they have to talk to you, Jeff Gordon made it where like he wanted to talk to you, if that makes sense. Like no matter who you are, what you do, where you come from, he wanted to talk to you, not that he just needed to talk to you. So once I was able to talk to him and get to actually meet him in person, that's kind of why that's kind of what made me like him even more, I guess you could say. Jeff Gordon was definitely the number one. I was never really old enough or stuff like that to idolize Dale Earnhardt Sr., but Dale Earnhardt Sr., from what I've seen, was definitely one heck of a driver. So I'm sure if I was old enough at the time and still alive, or if I was alive when he was still alive, then I would definitely idolize him. But in my lifetime, it would definitely be Jeff. As far as my favorite driver now, I got two right now. Martin Truex Jr. is one. He kind of came from like an underfunded area and stuff like that, and he's definitely been working as hard as he can to get where he's at. And so that's why I idolize him a lot. And Kyle Larson also, he's not like the other drivers. I don't know if you were listening, what race was it? It was a couple weeks ago. They were talking about it on TV, but they were saying after his All-Star race, he got to the hotel about 1 o'clock, and instead of going to sleep because he had to catch a plane next morning, he stayed up and watched the race to kind of learn what he could improve on. And that's what makes you a good driver, is going back and studying your flaws and doing and improving on the next one. So it's just like taking a test. You got to study for it so you can ace it.
Yeah, I was listening to the Dale Jr. download, and he just had Clint Boyer on, and they were talking about racers who are just different, whether it be built different, mindset different. And one of the guys that they kind of both agreed on was Kyle Larson, and they just said his work ethic. That guy, he gets out of a car and he's already looking like, okay, what's the next car I'm getting in? He doesn't settle for racing one series. He is out there getting in every opportunity that he has, and that's why they say, that they respect the heck out of him, and he's as good as he is. It's because he doesn't settle on just one discipline. He's out there. You guys know he's running everything he can get into. He'd run a hybrid.
I think Christopher said he'd run a hybrid, I think, which is
Hybrid,
interesting,
no.
given that NASCAR. Huh?
No, hydroplane.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit later, but yes. Oh, that was a lot of fun. But, Chris, the one thing that drew us to you was you have been a Twitter superstar the last few weeks. we know that fans are getting younger. We've got a growing fan base on what we call NASCAR Twitter, with all the pluses and minuses that brings. But how important are those engagements on Twitter with the fans to you in terms of helping show sponsors that, you can connect to people and you've got a following that you can bring, their business to your fan base?
Yeah, so quick story on that. Before in my career, I've tweeted like at companies like, hey, how many retweets for you to sponsor me? And me and my girlfriend were out in Charlotte waiting for the race to happen. We went up about a week before, and we were laying down. And I was like, man, I want Red Bull to sponsor me. She's like, well, we'll tweet at Red Bull how many retweets to sponsor. And I kind of rolled my eyes because I was like, no, I've done that before. Like, it's not going to work. She kind of bugged me about it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'll do it. And this was about like 10 o'clock at night. And within 24 hours, I had 100,000 impressions. And I gained like I started out with 200 followers before my Charlotte race. And now I'm at like 3,200. And so that's what kind of made me blow up. And then I started interacting with them, talking to them. And, they're loving it. I'm loving it. I'm putting a smile on their face. They're putting a smile on my face. But as far as the sponsorship goes, sponsors make NASCAR go around. If there weren't companies helping support these drivers, there'd be no drivers. And so in order to get sponsors too, you have to have an ROI, and ROI is a return on investment, and the way to get return on investment is viewership. So you can't approach a sponsor asking for a 50K for a race and saying that this is how you're going to make your money back when you have no support behind you. So the fans are literally 100% what keeps drivers going. And so like for me to be able to like blow up how I did and have all the great fans that I have right now, it's been a huge blessing. I can't be more thankful enough for all of them supporting me and them just making my day and stuff like that. And I don't know if you saw, but one of them, I tweeted a picture of a Biggie cheese from Barnyard, and I was like, they call me Mr. Boombastic, and one of them put my face on it, and I was like, yes, like this is amazing, like thank you for doing this. And so like they make memes out of my face, which I love. It definitely makes me smile. And it's just like I said, you can't approach sponsors without viewership. So they definitely help more than a lot of people understand.
Yeah, that's it's always funny seeing people interact with you. And I saw that whoever it was, I know I'd remember the name if I saw it, but they were like, how many retweets for you to make it your profile picture for the day? And I think you said like 100 or something like that. I think we're getting close. I think I retweeted it on all 4 of my accounts, so I'm adjust it to 104. But
I also retweeted it.
But it's really fun and refreshing to hear that that you're enjoying these interactions, because as fans like me, I live in upstate New York. You guys come to Watkins Glen, that's my only chance to get to the track and see the show, because NASCAR races, they are a show.
Quick interruption, are you going to be at Watkins Glen?
This is like the first year I'm not, and it's because I'm going to Bristol for the night race.
Oh, that's so upsetting, because I'm going to be at Watkins Glen.
Oh.
Maybe I'll have to.
He's like, I might have to cancel now.
I'm like, crap, I need to find some tickets. I keep bugging Darryl and Michael, the other co-host. So hey, next year you guys got a road trip up here. I live less than 40 minutes from the track. I'm like, you guys got to come up here. We'll go down. There's no atmosphere like Watkins Glen. And I was like, you guys just got to come up for it. So maybe Mike or Darryl, maybe you got to come up this year. You got to figure it out. But anyways, Chris, I'm actually going to try to get there now.
If I hadn't just gotten back from Alabama, I probably would have thought about that. But I don't have it. I just started a job and I just came back from Alabama, so I don't think I'm going to have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's understandable. The job is going to be like, you just started and now you need a vacation. Like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
My wife would kill me if I got more tickets. I got my big trip to Bristol this year. I'm going to go, me and a buddy, we're going down to Charlotte. We're going to tour the race shops and stuff. So it's going to be a whole week of just NASCAR. I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, to kind of wrangle back in, and we're going to kind of, let's see, I got to find my spot in here. Okay. So, just with off the track, and speaking about your engagement with the fans and all of that, researching, trying to get some background information on you before the show, you've used your platform to spread awareness for the brachial plexus, because I note on that one, the brachial plexus community. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to raise awareness, what you've accomplished? I saw that you were a guest speaker at a camp. Just what are you doing, and what does it mean to you to kind of give back to that community?
Yeah, so before I even started racing, my parents would pay me like $20 to mow the lawn, stuff like that. I'd be able to get paid to do chores around the house, which I was very thankful for. And I'd take that money and I'd be like, let me donate this to UBPN. UBPN is United Brachial Plexus Network, and they're the ones that hold that camp you were talking about, and they help spread awareness about BPI or brachial plexus injury. Anyways, so in 2014, we started a fundraiser called 24 Kids to Camp. My late model number was 24 because I like Jeff Gordon so much. And so we raised $2,400, which was able to send 24 of the kids who weren't able to afford it to this camp. And what this camp does is it kind of brings these kids together to interact with other, not only kids, even adults, but to interact with others that have the same injury that they do. And so, along with that, we backed off of it once I got out of the racing career because, we didn't know if I was going to get back into racing at all. So we didn't really focus on, the Chris Hacker platform at that time. So I got back into racing. We did another fundraiser. We were able to send some more kids to camp, which is great. And I don't know if you've seen my Phoenix car, but we had no sponsors for Phoenix. And so what I did is I just put UBPN on the car. I could have easily ran a blank car. It would have been a lot cheaper for sure. But we were like, you know what, let's get this organization on some national TV and stuff like that. So like you said, I'm going to be on that. They have a virtual camp this year due to COVID. So I'm going to be a guest speaker on there. Next year I plan on going out there and talking to some kids, and I just try to do everything I can to kind of bring awareness of it because I'm sure you guys have never heard of it before you've heard or met me or heard of me or anything like that. And there's not really too many kids who have it. And so when you go to these camps and see hundreds of people who are just like you, it's kind of like heartwarming and stuff. A little example is when I put deodorant on, instead of you have the deodorant in your right hand, you put it under your left arm, and then usually you'll put it in your left hand and put it under your right arm. Well, I do it normal under my left arm, but then I kind of have to do a little chicken wing movement and apply a deodorant with my right hand under my right arm, just because my left arm doesn't have enough strength and stuff. And I went to this camp and I found out like 10 other kids do that too. And I was like, oh my God. I ran straight to my mom. I was like, Mom, you don't believe this. Like, other kids are doing this too. And so to be able to know that there's people out there who are experiencing the challenges that you're experiencing is definitely amazing to experience. And so, we're going to continue doing these fundraisers every year as much as we can from now on. Because I want these kids who come from, an unprivileged family to be able to go out there and experience what I was able to experience.
That's just the philanthropic work is just awesome. Whenever anybody has the opportunity or the platform to do it, it's just always so heartwarming. When people like you take advantage of your opportunity to bring awareness to it. And we've been talking a little bit behind the scenes, and we'd like to give $100 to send a kid to camp, and we'd also like to open it up to our viewers. So we will match dollar for dollar another 100. So we could donate, a possible $300, but 100 guaranteed. So if you don't mind just staying on afterwards, and we'll talk to, once we go to commercial, we'll talk to logistics. But we do want to help you out in your cause, and we really appreciate you coming on the show. Talking to us tonight. It's been a real blast, and it was something pretty important for us that, you gave us your time tonight, and we wanted to, give something back for your efforts tonight. So thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, just stay on, because we want to talk about where to send this money. So
for sure. And not, from friend to friend perspective, not from business to business, I can't thank you enough for that, honestly. My mom is probably going to start tearing up when she hears that. I really can't thank you enough for that opportunity. So, we'll definitely set this up, and I'm sure UBPN will be glad to hear this. They'll be glad to share it. And yeah, we can definitely get something figured out. And again, I really can't thank you both enough for this opportunity and for your support and trying to help these kids out.
Exactly. We really want to help out, and thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us. This is a lot of fun. We definitely got to do this again, maybe before or after you make that truck start, whenever it is. So we'll definitely be in touch. Tell the folks they can talk to you both on Twitter, and where can they see your streams?
Yeah, so my social media is Instagram is Chris_Hacker. Twitter is ChrisHacker_. I stream on Twitch, and my Twitch profile is ChrisHacker_, and then my Facebook page is just Chris Hacker Motorsports. And then you can find all of that on my website, which is chrishackerracing.com.
All right, Christopher. Thank you, Chris. Sorry. See, I knew I was going to do that at some point. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we go to break, fans, I got to thank our sponsors, because without them, we would not be able to do this. And of course, that means I have to thank the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. As I've said to you each and every week, the world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players are playing in hopes for so many different outcomes, whether it's to get filmed, to try out for the professional leagues, big-time colleges, or just trying to stay in shape. No matter what, semi-pro athletes have one thing in common, and that is playing for the love of the game. And the Southern California Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you make it that second chance you've been looking for as an athlete. Follow them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and on Facebook at Southern California Warriors. Thank you so much to the SoCal Warriors for sponsoring IE Sports Radio. So, we're going to take a break, but I know we are 40 minutes in, but we are nowhere near done, because I went to Guntersville, Alabama, and folks, I've got a lot that I've got to get to tell you guys about my first experience in an H1 Unlimited hydroplane race. We'll be right back after this here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Faces Loaded is back and in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is to hoist that commissioner's trophy when it's all said and done.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And folks, if you were just joining us, you just missed a heck of a conversation we just had with Chris Hacker. And hey, go back and you can jump back and listen to it right now on Spreaker.com or anywhere where podcasts can be heard when this episode gets uploaded the minute we are done right here on the Extra Mile. So coming into this episode, Krista pretty much thought that we would have a 90-minute episode going to about 9:30. And between the conversation we just had with Chris and what we are about to get into right now, I think that 90 minutes is going to get filled. As you know, I went to the H1 Unlimited Hydroplane race, the Guntersville Lake Hydro Fest, this past weekend, the race for the Southern Cup. Christopher, I will tell you, it was my first boat race of any capacity, and I'm already planning on my next one. I had so much freaking fun this last weekend. I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, I hope you learn how to describe it, because you got some eager fans waiting to hear all about it, Darryl, including myself.
Well, I think I can find some words to explain about it, so we'll go ahead and get started. Well, we got there on Friday we stayed in Birmingham, Alabama. Beautiful city. For some reason, the part we were in, though, was extremely quiet, but then again, we were staying down near the courthouse and everything, and of course, with COVID, people can't go in there, so a lot of travel's not going on. But anyway, we weren't there for Birmingham, we were there for Guntersville. So we leave out Saturday morning, and you have to drive about an hour to get to this place. And I'm a metropolitan person. I've stayed in what we call here the DMV my entire life. 4 or 5 lane highways to get anywhere, Route 50, all that jazz. We were probably only on like an interstate or like a traditional highway that I would understand for like 20 minutes of the journey. Most of the ride is on like 2-lane literal country roads for like an hour.
Darryl, welcome to daily life. Right? Let me guess, there were some trees, some fields, the occasional guardrail, and a bunch of nice farmers out in the fields.
There was a lot of cows, like a ton of cows, and churches. Alabama has a lot of churches, if you didn't know this. Like, there was 3 on the same street. Yes, Alabama is a part of the Bible Belt.
Well, then, easy math, Darryl, easy math.
Yeah, but it's different when you haven't been there. And with the streets, of course, with them being that way, they're a little bit different. So we're on Route 79 to like go into Guntersville, but the light before you go into Guntersville, there's another highway name I can't remember the number on it, and then 79. But it doesn't have like a traditional stoplight. It's got a flashing red like single beacon and then a stop sign. So this is 2 highways, and it's controlled by a 4-way stop. We had to cross this thing 4 times. 6 times, because we went on Friday as well to see the little meet and greet. 3 times going, 3 times back. It was the most nerve-wracking experience of my life. And everybody that's from Alabama, they just came up, stopped, went through it like it's nothing. I'm sitting there gripping the steering wheel of the car like, oh my gosh, nobody hit me, nobody hit me, nobody hit me. So that was a lot of fun, sarcastically. But it was a lot of fun. So we get to little elementary school. We park there, get on the buses to get bussed over to the actual race site, because there was no parking available in this little area where they were having the race. So we get off the bus and we're sitting in the line. We're waiting to go in. So it's about 9 o'clock. Testing's supposed to start at 9. And the boats start coming out. Brad Luce gets on the mic, starts talking, and the boats start coming over. So it's kind of obstructed our view from where we're standing because of A, the fence, and B, there's a bunch of trees. So they go around the back stretch, which is, like half a mile from us. They go through turn 2. You can start hearing this little, the whine of the engine, because they use surplus helicopter engines. And you can hear the scream, and it's low, and it's starting to get louder and louder and louder and louder. And this full turbine scream as this orange boat, massive boat, by the way. If you saw the pictures and the videos I posted on Twitter, these things are absolutely massive. They're like 32 feet long, like 28 to 32 feet long, about 14 feet wide. These are massive boats. And it just goes screaming by. I've never heard one of these things before, and I watched this thing go by me. That was a horrible impression, by the way. And like, yep, I'm hooked. I love this. And oh my gosh, it was incredible. So we get through the gate, and there's just so many people. Like, this park that they've got set up is packed. They've got all the vendors, they've got food trucks, and the Army was doing demonstrations, and of course they had the little tables for merchandise and all that set up. And there's a walking trail that's in the middle of the park, and then there's grass to the left and the right. And you had some people sitting up and it was shaded, thank God, because it was extremely hot, because, you know, it's in the South. So you've got people that are up on the water watching, and you've got other people that are, you know, in the back on the other side of the walking trail in more of the shade watching. So our seats were the club level, which was basically, they had a tent that was set up, they had catered food, tables and chairs in front of this little beach. We were right there on the front stretch at the start-finish line of this race. And you can walk out there, and the boats are just kicking up spray that's about as tall as my house. And you see them, they go blasting past you, and they just keep going straight for like ever. And then all of a sudden they turn, and you can just watch the spray. It's like going straight, going straight, going straight, going straight. Yoom! It just, for lack of a better term, they both just yeet themselves around the corner, because they don't lift, by the way, when they turn. They just keep the throttle mad. They've got skid fins that'll help them, you know, make the turn. They can only go left, by the way, because they're not designed to go right. If you got to turn right in one of these, it's a bad time. So you're just watching the boats, and the ride, I can say, is violent, because they're not really riding in the water. They're skipping like across the water, if that makes any sense. Because when the boats are in the water, they're losing speed. So they have these things called canards between the two sponsons that helps lift the boats up, lift the front of the boat up off the water. I've probably explained this on a previous episode. But you can just see them, they glide across the water. And it's just an amazing sight to see in person, because these things are massive, and they're just gliding like it's nothing. And then sometimes you'll see the boats rock left to right, and the sponsons are lightly tapping on the waves, something they like to call walking the sponsons. And you can hear the doop, 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 doop as the boat is going by and like bouncing off the waves. And watching that, it is so violent, because the entire boat is just undulating left and right. It's a sight that I'm not used to, because this is literally my first experience with boats as far as racing. And it was such a unique experience. It's going to stay with me for a while. But it just makes the sport even that more intense for me, because they're doing all this stuff on water, which is completely different than on the pavement. Because we talk about track changes on pavement, you know, as the race goes on, the water lap to lap is different, because these propellers that are spinning at 18,000 revolutions per minute are just churning up the water, and it's just slop when you come through there the second time, and it makes it extremely hard to handle. And it really gave me a newfound respect for the guys that do this, you know, week in and week out, because they got to have some brave pills to do that.
Yeah, no, it was really fun seeing all the pictures and the videos and stuff you were sending, and it definitely looked like you were having a good time, especially when you were able to climb into the cockpit of one of these things. And you were obviously telling me and Chris about it a little bit in the pre-show, but you know, these, from, you know, what you described, these boats are bulletproof, and from the sounds of it now, so are these drivers.
Yeah, these boats, well, they're bulletproof until they get upside down or they get into the spray of another boat, which I'll talk to in a minute. But I gotta thank Andrew Tate and Quentin Miller with the Graham Trucking team that allowed me to do that. I met Quentin during the pandemic over Discord, and his brother, we call him DJ, and about half the people, or about a bunch of the people that follow this, I met so many people. Ben Dowell, I met the Rainies that own the J&Ds, the eventual winner of the race, J. Michael Kelly, met him. Jimmy Shane, who was there, he only ran one heat due to what they're doing with the boat that missed home street due to COVID complications. I met a lot of people that I have talked to online, and it was incredible getting to meet these people. But, you know, Andrew showed us around the boat, and, you know, Quentin's nephew, you know, he put him in the boat. I wasn't even thinking about climbing, and he asked me, did I want to climb into the boat? And I'm like, you know what? Sure. So I climb into this thing, and the first thing I will tell you is that when you get in it, you are locked into this seat. Like, you cannot move. And I was explaining this to Chris Hacker, and he understands it from being in a stock car. And Christopher, the only thing you can do, you can turn your head about an inch, I think, in either direction, and you can turn the wheel with your arms. Other than that, you are set in this capsule, which is a good thing because of how these boats handle and how it's not really a good thing when they get upside down. So you're locked into this thing, and I actually got to touch the canard pedal, and I was so nervous pushing that pedal down because the last thing I wanted to do was mess up and hear something go clink or something, and I break the canard pedal on this $1 million race boat that still has to go out again. And I don't know how I'm going to explain that. I don't have the money to pay for this. I got student loans to pay for on a master's degree. I ain't going to be able to pay for no boat canard. But I put my foot on it to push it down, and it is so heavy. Like, I don't even know how to describe the weight of this thing. It's like, if you're ever at the gym, you know those big, like, 100-kilo plates? Take, like, 4 of them, line them up, like, against a wall or something, and push against it with your foot. That's the best way I can describe how hard it is to try to get this pedal to move. Now, it's obviously going to be a lot better when there's air moving on it, but when it's stable, you get the understanding of just how hard it is to move that pedal up and down. And they're trying to do this split-second decisions, getting this pedal to either go down or come up to keep this boat from turning into an actual plane and going upside down. These things are incredible. Like, I keep using that word because it's the only way to explain it. And, you know, I took the picture. It's my profile picture now on Twitter of, you know, Andrew Tate and I, him looking down at me as I'm sitting in the capsule. But watching these things side by side, you see 3 of them come across start-finish line for the first time, and the clock hit 0. Such a great thing. And I got to back up a little bit because I'm jumping all around with this story. But they don't do traditional, like, standing starts or rolling starts with these boats. It's on a clock. So you got a 5-minute milling period, they call it, where you're trying to do this thing where you're trying to set up for what lane you're going to get into, because they don't assign lanes anymore. Some series they do assign lanes, they don't for H1 Unlimited. It makes it a lot more exciting. So what the drivers can do during this time, and we saw this a couple of times, I think I caught some of that in my videos, is they will cut the course. There's points at the north and south end of the racetrack where, I say racetrack, but the course, where you can cut from the front stretch to the back stretch, or from the back stretch to the front stretch. There are certain zones that are no-go. They call them DMZs. If you go in there, that's a penalty, and we'll talk about that when I get into the final. But what they're trying to do is undercut the guys that are around them, because if they do that, they can set up to get lane 1, which is the lane closest to the inside buoys, shortest way around. In theory, you should have the best chance to win because you can get around the corner quicker than everybody else. If you don't hit your start, though, you're kind of stuck there between that other boat and the water, and the buoy row. And you don't want to hit a buoy, that's a 1-lap penalty. So, these things side by side, and it's 3 of them kicking up water and skidding through the turns. Just such a picturesque scene, especially, I think, in the first heat of the day, Heat 1A. We had 3 boats, the 2 strong boats or strong racing boats and the Graham trucking, side by side, or deck to deck to deck, they say, as they come off the corner. And it's beautiful because you see one boat, the inside boat, then you'll see another boat, and then another boat as they come off the corner. And it's such a picturesque scene. You got the blue skies, there's water spraying up, these boats are inches off of each other. Such an incredible sight. If you've never been to a boat race, you need to try and get to it. If you've never been to an H1 Unlimited race, they got 4 more this year. If you can make it, go. Okay? They're, of course, mainly in the West Coast, but you got to get to one of these. That is the one thing I will say. But the most terrifying thing, and I mentioned this earlier, is when one of these boats gets into the rooster tail, which is the name of that water that's splashing up from the propeller of another. And we saw that in, I believe it was Heat 2B, when Corey Peabody, who's driving the Pinnacle Consulting, the U9 Pinnacle Consultants, or Pinnacle Peak Consulting, sorry, and he was racing with Andrew Tate in the U12 Graham Trucking. Well, unfortunately, when Corey came off turn 2, the boat kept turning to the left instead of unhooking, as they say, to go straight. So his path carried him into the into the rooster tail of the Graham Trucking, and he disappears and got airborne. And I'm standing on the beach watching this. I'm like, oh no, this boat's going over. And everybody standing next to me thought this boat went upside down. He got in the air about a good 5 or 6 feet. It damaged the cowling fin, which goes over the engine. Actually damaged the exhaust port for the engine and knocked the mirrors off the boat as well. But it didn't go upside down, thank goodness. And he came by the second time. There's just a massive hole just ripped out of the cowling, which just shows you how violent this water is coming off the boat. They were able to replace it, but thankfully, they only had to replace the cowling and didn't have to replace a brand new boat, because Darryl Strong just bought that boat, and it would be tough for him to go the first week and have to rebuild a whole new boat before he gets to Madison this weekend.
Yeah, no, that from a business standpoint, for anybody having to replace what I would have to assume is somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million boat, that would not be a fun way to start out the season. And just to back up a little bit, Darryl, when you were saying that racing on water is quite the event anyway. So I have been to a race on water, but they were not racing boats. They were racing snowmobiles, which just tells you how in the middle of nowhere and how bored we get here in upstate New York.
I'm sorry, so, they raced what?
Snowmobiles on melted snow.
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen videos of that before, and yeah, those guys are insane.
Yeah, basically, it's similar to boat racing. They're set up to turn one way, and it's actually pretty crazy. So to turn, they actually have to turn their skis the opposite way that they want the snowmobile to go, and that's how they get turned. And then they have to lean into it, almost like your MotoGP. How it's less with the steering wheel and more with your body weight. But yeah, that's it. And so in terms of water racing, I've never seen the boat race or anything, but I have seen snowmobiles, and it was awesome and it was fun. And I don't think people understand how much drama there is when it comes to water, because these snowmobiles, they would flip over, they would crash. And then you're talking about a guy just, basically treading water when all these guys are riding snowmobiles around him. And they don't want to drop their snowmobile into the water, so they're still rocking full speed. And you might have a guy bobbing in the middle of the water. And we actually saw a guy get hit. It was crazy.
Ooh.
But just to kind of, so I understand how crazy water racing is. I'd love to see a boat race someday. It does sound like it'd be a lot of fun, especially if I had the type of access that you had, Darryl. That would make it just that much more fun.
I think Larry. We do have another show tonight, so I don't know if we can go till 9:30. So we may have to wrap this up. Actually, we're supposed to have Frozen Takes that's supposed to go live, so we may have to truncate this episode for this week. Unfortunately, we didn't get to a lot of the racing stuff that we wanted to. But we will do here nearest the wind quickly before we get out of here. So we've got 3 races this weekend. We've got the second race for Formula One, which is the Australian GP. Or not Australian GP, sorry. The Styrian GP. Or this is the actual Austrian GP. I don't know what it's called. But
either way, it's at the Red Bull Ring again.
Yeah. I'm reluctantly going to take... Red Bull? Or no, I'm going to reluctantly take Lewis Hamilton. Who you got?
You could grab Sergio, though.
Actually, yeah. You know what? Forget it. We'll take Paris. Well, no, because I still get the one. No, because of Verstappen. We'll take Paris because we got to go.
You can't have Verstappen. So I got Verstappen because I had Paris last week. So actually, it was a really good weekend for me. Alex Bowman and Verstappen won, so I was having a good weekend. So yeah, I will take Verstappen. What do we got for Indy?
So we got IndyCar and Mid-Ohio, and NASCAR's at Road America. In the interest of time, I'm just going to give the 2 picks that I'm going to go in succession. I'm going to take. We are at Mid-Ohio, and Graham Rahal tends to show out here. So I'm going to take Graham Rahal. And for NASCAR, I pick him a lot for road courses, but you can't go wrong with Chase Elliott at a road course.
I took Larson last week, but he would be my pick this week if I had him. And I know that that's crazy. It's sacrilege because I'm a Chase Elliott fan. So I'll take Chase Elliott this week, somewhat reluctantly. And for Indy, Kalu, I guess.
Okay.
There's so many people you can pick. It's kind of ridiculous, these young guys, which we don't have enough time to talk about, of course.
So, as usual, usually I'd have a much longer spiel at the end, but we don't have time. We're actually stepping on the toes of a brand new show. Stay right there, though. We are not done here on iSports Radio tonight. Frozen Takes with AJ premieres next. We're going to jump out of here. Christopher's at Fiji Sims. I'm at DK Jr. 12. Remember to follow the Extra Mile on Twitter at Extra Mile IESR. We will see you guys next week for the next green flag. Have a wonderful evening.